Welcome to the Vine Resources Podcast Show with your host, David Lawrence.
Welcome to another edition of the Divine Resources Podcast Show. I'm delighted today to be in the offices of BBOXX. I'm with the co-founder and CTO, Chris Baker-Bryan. Chris, thank you so much for joining us and letting us come in your office.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And for those who don't know much about BBOXX, and we're over in Chiswick today in West London, a global business and in some very interesting markets and doing some really interesting stuff. Please tell us a little bit about BBOXX.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you a bit about what we do. So BBOXX is what we describe as a next generation utility company. So we try and provide energy services to clients in the developing world that don't have access to reliable electric power. So our primary focus is on Africa, where we have some 500 employees based locally down there, providing energy services to off-grid households and businesses who lack access to reliable power. We do that on a payment plan model, so we sell it in small installments, energy in small installments, which they pay weekly, daily, monthly. And essentially our business is about providing the products and the services and also deploying that into new markets. We're some 8 years old, started as 3 co-founders out of Imperial College and have scaled the business from a charity some 10 years ago to, as I said, over 500 people in Africa and then around 600 globally. We have an office in China, office here in Chiswick, and then office down in Kigali in Rwanda as well.
Fantastic. And in terms of the type of or how it perhaps came about, what was the moment that the business came about? There was obviously a problem that you identified.
Yeah, so some 10 years ago we started, whilst we were finishing up our degrees actually at university, we were doing some charitable projects based down in Rwanda, looking at how to improve access to energy in those markets. Developed this solution, which we took to a village over the course of a summer. And then we came back from that sort of process and realised actually there's a lot of people wanting to develop this solution in their own market, in their city, in their village, in their town, and wherever it might be. We had so many requests coming in from all over the world, and we thought, okay, maybe now is a chance to really turn that charitable project into something that we can really scale as a business, take on investment, develop the ideas and the products, and then try and scale it into more markets. So BBOXX was born in March 2010. And since then, we've been developing, testing new ideas, scaling into new markets. We focused on Rwanda and Kenya as our first two for many years, but over the last few years, we've really expanded. Yeah, so, for example, Togo is one of the big markets that we've expanded into recently, and we've had some recent news there with EDF coming on board to take over 50% of our operation in Togo, which has been a great validation of our business model and helps us really scale. These are some of the things that we're working on, and in terms of that core idea, though, of providing access to energy for your off-grid household, that still remains, the core of our mission. Providing access to energy is really important for BBOXX, and all of our employees go through that process of understanding our customer, really getting on the ground early on in their journey with the company, so they know who our customer is and they can develop the best products and services for them.
Now, not everyone is working with companies in developing markets as such. I'm just curious if there was one or two things that you'd say the biggest challenges for you in working on the ground with those customers, managing communications. What have they been?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes back to the people that you need to find to employ there. It's not, we haven't got the luxury as we do in Chiswick and West London of the market for software developers, operational business developers. These are sort of things that we have a luxury here in terms of finding, but on the ground in East Africa, talent is a challenge, and so finding, recruiting, and retaining the best talent and making sure you can onboard them and bring them up through the business is really key for us. So we've got a talent acquisition program which we've been running for a number of years now across the business to help us find local talent within those markets, retain them, and essentially bring them forward within BBOXX. We also have a mobile workforce program, so getting people to move around those different offices globally helps the improve, motivation amongst the team. So that's one of the big important things that we've been working on recently as well.
Now, obviously with Africa, the time zones are not too bad to the UK, but you've obviously mentioned China. Tell us what a typical day in the business looks like for you.
Yeah, sure. So if I look at last week, for example, Monday we've got the typical review meeting, so looking at the numbers for the last week. One of the big strengths of BBOXX is really, the data-driven aspect of what we do. We're really about collecting information and using that to drive our business. So we're all about understanding numbers in terms of how many customers were installed, energy generated, where our issues were within the business. So that's your typical Monday. Tuesday might be working with some investors to understand due diligence material for new markets. So that's one of the things we're going through a lot at the moment, with investments into Togo, investments into East Africa, investments into the Topco as well. So a lot of eyes on us from an investor perspective, which takes up quite a bit of time. Wednesday might be working through plans for the next quarter. So I was just in Rwanda a few weeks ago working through plans for the next 3 months for all our development activities, and that engages all the business. So supply chain finance might get involved in that as well. And then, so I guess Thursday is understanding the new products and services. So you may be working with the local MD in Rwanda to understand what their forecast might be for deployment of new products over the next 6 to 12 months. And we sometimes occasionally have a bit of fun. So Friday you might have a bit of fun in the office and do something like we have a 10% time where every 2 weeks the team will try and do a new project, which is not maybe necessarily directly related to their core objectives, but helps them develop a new idea or understand how to develop a new product, which is could be of use to BBOXX in the future. So that's something that we do. We like to make sure the team are creative and innovating all the time with new services. So that's one of the important parts of working at the company.
Fantastic. Well, Fridays sound good, and I think there's free breakfast on a Monday as well. So
indeed.
We'll touch on that later.
Yep.
Tell me, you've obviously been through a lot of change as the organisation has grown, but who perhaps has been a mentor to you, and who have you looked up to, and how have they added value?
I think one of the big things for us is very early on in BBOXX's journey, we got a lot of support from our university when we were developing the charity there. And in fact, actually, one of the original sort of key moments for BBOXX was really our old head of department from our university, who was really that spur and really allowed us to kick on and develop the charity. So he gave us some funding out of his own pocket to go and run that first project in Rwanda some 10 years ago, and he's been involved in the business ever since. We meet him at least once a year to give him updates on what we're up to, and he's passionate about making sure that back in the day anyway, students were understanding the realities of the world in which they were going to work. So I think he was really inspirational in the early days. I think his sort of drive to make sure the founders of BBOXX had the opportunity to go and do that was really important. That was the key moment, I guess, that allowed us to get the business started.
Brilliant.
And we still stay in touch with him on a regular basis.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit about employee engagement here, and particularly again with such a widespread workforce. How do you keep the employees engaged?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is relating back to the mission of the company. Such a strong mission to electrify off-grid areas, provide power to a customer or a household that's never had it before. I think always you've got to bring people back to that central mission on a regular basis. It's quite easy for an employee that might be developing a piece of code or developing a circuit board or doing a new design or something. It's easy for them to get lost or forget, I guess, the core mission of the business and what we're trying to achieve. So that's really important, is that regular session to remind people of the impact that we're having, remind people of the central mission of BBOXX, which is to electrify off-grid households in the developing world who don't have access to power, and reminding people about that on a regular basis, showing them the impact is probably the most important thing to improve motivation.
What's the one piece of business advice that you've received that you could share with us? The best piece, perhaps?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the biggest thing for me is the focus on communication. When times are tough, making sure that you're always communicating why we're doing something. If there's a change happening, making sure you're always communicating the outcomes that could potentially happen, the final objective. I think that's really the biggest thing is when times are difficult and there's problems and you've got issues with the people or products or expansion or whatever it might be, that you're always explaining and communicating to the people that need to know why we're doing this and what the issues are. It's why probably we end up in so many meetings on a daily basis, but it is the most important part of your business. Your day-to-day routine is just making sure your staff members know what's happening, they trust you, and they understand where the business is going. That's probably the most important thing.
Talking about perhaps onboarding next, new employees. How do you get them brought into the culture of the company at an early stage?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we do a lot with a lot of our senior staff, and also increasingly a lot of the staff that are in touch with our products and services, is about giving them access to the customer. So getting them down to our market in East Africa, in Rwanda, where we have another core team, sort of the parallel team to the office here in London, and working with them for a week to understand who the customer is, going out seeing people in the field who use our products and services, going to see our technicians do an installation, go and see, shadow one of the shop staff for a period of time. Yep. Again, it's like getting them in touch with the customer. I think that's really important in the early days, and particularly if that person is going to then go on to design new products and services, that they understand the realities of how it will be used on the ground. So that's probably one of the strongest things that we do early on, in terms of connecting them with what the organisation is trying to achieve and how we work as a business. And I think it's really exposure to as many people as possible. That's really important as well. In those first 1 month, 2 months, is get them talking to as many people, understand the challenges, get their insight into what's bothering them, so they can see how their impact will change the work of others that they're engaged with. So that's probably the first couple of things I would do as when an employee joins us, is really get them talking to as many people across the business, and then eventually get them to go on the ground and see the impact that we're having with the customer.
How, in terms of that, and you talk about being on the ground, so would people do swap, as you say, swap around offices? They could be working at any one of those offices, whether China or in Africa or here.
Yeah, it's pretty common. We've had where people go and do 2 or 3 months in Kigali from here.
Right.
That's a lady over the summer was doing that. I've got this mobile workforce program, so people rotating across different offices. We've had people go to Lome in Togo. We've had Goma in the DRC, which is an interesting one. Yes. Not something where, not for the faint-hearted, that one. And a few other interesting places. Nairobi, we've got an office there in Kenya. Yeah. So just that rotation, understanding what's going on in those different offices is really important. Yeah. Often it's related to projects. If you're implementing a new solution, developing a new feature, that's often when people will go. But we've done also extended periods of time, just to really absorb and learn about what's bothering that part of the organisation, and how the team here can support that journey.
How is your Mandarin or French?
Je parle un peu, that's my basic French there. And Mandarin also about the same, about 5 words. I can point and get some directions. No, it's pretty basic. But engaging the local staff is really important. Obviously, English is the core business language that we have, but I think we have some 52 nationalities now across the business. Wow. In 11 different offices. So it's definitely getting people to understand, the scope and breadth of the business is really important early on, and relating them, making a community of it, making sure that people know what others are doing, sharing knowledge, doing insights. We do on a quarterly basis. All the 3 offices will do a demo day of presenting their work that they've done over the last quarter. They're all videoed and shared and sent across different offices. So that's really important again for sharing content and sharing knowledge. Showing work, tracking visibility of work. We've got a lot of dashboards around this room which will show the progress of different people's work, and everyone who's logged into our system can see that. So again, it's visibility, transparency, making sure people know in all those different offices the work that's going on. That's super important for us.
What's the one mistake perhaps you've witnessed, or you witness business leaders making more frequently than others?
I mean, from our perspective, I think it's probably hesitation when that first thing that you often choose to do is probably maybe not necessarily be always the right thing, but it's often, if you do it first time, it often is the right thing to do. So often it's hesitation or delay in making that decision. And if, for example, for us, it's maybe expanding into a market. We maybe didn't expand as fast as we'd have wanted 4 or 5 years ago, and now we've done a lot of expansion recently, and a lot of that's been driven by the need to sort of catch up with what we wanted to do and in terms of our business plan. So if we'd have decided to do that a few years ago and gone for that expansion, maybe we would have been a very different business, even potentially bigger than we are today. So I think it's that hesitation is often something that, or questioning the decision. Yes, you need good data, but also sometimes you do need to trust your instincts a little bit and go with a decision that you feel is right. And that's probably the biggest thing that we've come up against, and we see our colleagues in other businesses making similar decisions. So trust your instincts, be brave, don't hesitate. If you think a decision is right, it often is, and go with your gut, and don't let people who potentially have a second view question that. And if you're the leader and you're the person in charge, make that decision and really push ahead.
Now the business is coming up nearly to 9 years old, which is fantastic. Where do you see, if you look maybe 4 or 5 years into the future, where do you see the industry going as a first point? And the second question is, how do you think that will affect your ability to attract and retain the right talent?
So I guess one of the biggest things in the energy sector in general, not just off-grid energy, and we, as I said, we describe ourselves as this next generation utility, so we see it broader than just energy. But one of the big things we see is I guess, making energy smarter. It's been energy is often quite a dumb sector, but it's sort of a dumb process. It's not really using data as best as it could do. So I think particularly a data-driven innovation on the energy sector is going to be one of the biggest push forwards in the next few years. And that is going to change the nature of the people you hire. Already here, just in London, we have 7 or 8 people who are engaged in analysing our product data, understanding how it can be used to drive performance improvements and actions on the ground. But we see that accelerating over the next few years, and potentially, data-driven understanding of our customers, of our products, is going to become one of the major growth areas, I think, for this sector. So yes, that will change the nature of the people you hire. You're looking for more data scientists, more data analysts, data engineers, people who are comfortable processing large data sets and making decisions from them. So I think that's also something that the energy sector in general maybe hasn't done so much to date, and I think will become increasingly important over the next few years. And also on the financing side as well, if I look away from technology and into the financing sector, again, this is being opened up now over the last few years. Off-grid energy was not really a market 5 years ago. We were scrabbling for a few $100,000 5 years ago, whereas now, the amount of money we've raised is closer to $80 million. And that's something that I think is changing a lot, but also the nature of the investors will change. So we've got people like Deutsche Bank coming on board now with us in Rwanda. We've got EDF coming on board with us in Togo. We're looking at some interesting creative financial solutions to really tackle this challenge, which is capital intensive. And I think there will be people who've got experience of financial markets in the developed world will be looking at this as the next growth area, and we will see some more creative financial instruments being developed for the off-grid world in the next few years, which I'm excited about, because this market does require quite a bit of capital to really make it scale, and that's something either partnering with local investors on the ground, or by working with investors at the top co level. These are the sort of things that we need to be doing on a regular basis to make sure that we can reach the millions of people that don't have access to reliable power. It will require quite a bit of money, and that's something that we do need to focus on as well.
Chris, as a final question, if you had to give your 20-year-old self advice, looking back now, what's the one thing you'd say to yourself?
I think it's that decisiveness, it's that bravery in decisions. I think backing yourself when times are tough. I think, and there's often times throughout the last 8 or 9 years when we've made decisions that we could have made faster. We could have made, again, it's hindsight and looking at what's happened and how the market has panned out. 5 years ago, as I said, the off-grid energy market didn't really exist, so a lot of the decisions we took, we would have probably taken a different one today. But it's being brave and bold in those decisions, backing yourself at all times, knowing that often if you're creating a business, but also, in our case, we're also helping to create the sector, because we're one of the earliest businesses in this space, that you often, you are potentially the expert in that area, and you should trust yourself and your decisions to really accelerate the business. And that's I think the biggest thing, is just make those decisions earlier, faster, and be braver and bolder in those choices.
Fantastic. And Chris, thanks for sharing that with us and hearing the story as well. What's the best way if people want to find out more about the company, find out more about you, or connect with you? How can they do that?
Yeah, sure. So on Twitter, you can get a lot of information about us. So our Twitter handle for the company is @BBOXX_HQ. That's BBOXX. And then for me, it's @CBakerBrian. That's my Twitter handle, so you can hit me up on there.
Chris, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, David. Thank you.
We really hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please take a moment to give us a review. 4 stars would be good, but 5 stars would be amazing.